Maybe somebody else should help him. All right, so what we're going to do is just center this first. This part's easy. Press down. Small amounts of clay can sometimes be tricky if you have larger hands to center it.
Yeah, we need that.
Now, most of the time when we're making forms on the wheel, we would leave it in a shape that's kind of like a gumdrop, like this. We would leave it kind of more elevated in the middle. To make a lid, though, we want this to be flat, like a hockey puck. So what we're going to do is we're going to use what I call the karate chop motion with your hand. And we're going to flatten this to make a disc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my right hand in centering position, braced on the drip pan in the back. My left hand is going to come down this way and press to flatten. Once your hand becomes dry, wet it. So you want the disc to be 1/2 inch or so thick. And the goal is, when we make our disc, to check our measurement that we took with our calipers of our lid. With it in the open V position, we want to make sure that the disc that we make is slightly wider or bigger than the opening measurement for our lid, okay? You see that it is bigger. So now the next step is to slow it down a little. And now what we're going to do is begin by shaping the knob or the handle, the way that we lift it. For most of your containers, because they're very small, you want one that's about 1/2 inch across. What I'm going to do to make my knob, I'm going to take my hands braced on the wheel. You can even let your right hand fingers touch the wheel head if you want. And I'm just going to come over to the side and press down with one finger. And it's going to make a size, almost like a coin shape across the top. You want it to be at least the size of like a nickel or bigger, okay? It should be proportionate to your container. If you have a really big container, you want a larger knob. If you have a small, delicate container, then a small one will work. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to press down, keeping your hands wet. Press down until you get an elevated, basically, cylinder, almost like a solid cylinder of clay. Just like that. Now, if I were to glaze this and try to lift it with the wall being very straight, I would drop it. So one of the requirements will be that you have to do what I call an undercut so that I can hold it. Before I make my undercut, I'm going to stretch out some of the clay to get it out of the way so I can work on my knob. So with nice wet hands, take 1 or 2 fingers and you're just going to pull back on that clay. As soon as it dries, wet your hands and wet the clay. So now I have easy access to reaching my knob. The simplest solution is to simply come in and use your right hand, turn it to the side with your pinky, and just press gently on the side, and it will make a little undercut. My left hand is holding the top of the little button handle here and pressing over just so it creates an even little shape. That gives me something to grab, okay? So just undercut, again repeat that, undercut here and kind of press on the top, keeping your hands wet. Now some students like it just like that, they like it really simple. But you can be completely creative with this. You can round the top of this knob, you can come in and do points. I'm going to teach you how to do a globe knob right now, which is actually really easy and a lot of kids like it. And a simple way to do a globe knob is to take your finger. Notice that my hands are working together just like always. I'm pressing down to make a little mini basic cylinder. I do not go all the way down. Okay, I'm leaving a little clay. And then I'm going to just pull my little walls with just a couple fingers. And I'm going to curve my fingers over so that I'm making a little mini globe, a little sphere. And then I close it.
Is there an air pocket in there?
That was going to be my next question. I was going to say, what's going to be a problem of making a little knob like this that's rounded? And it's going to be that there's an air pocket in it. So what you would do if you want something like that that's kind of rounded, you would need to come in and punch a little needle hole in it just so that the air can escape. Okay? You can do it on the bottom of the lid. So when you invert your lid and flip it over, you can do it through the bottom. And some people, if you look at some of these, you'll see that they actually do it right on the front, right at the bottom somewhere. There's just a little teeny hole. So then we'll come in and we just come in and make our lid top maybe a little more interesting. You could leave it plain and simple. Some students like to come in and do designs on it by just pressing either modeling tools or your fingers to make a design, to make it interesting. And then you could soften that if you wanted to. The nice thing about having a little ridge system like that on a lid is it gives the glaze something to trail on, and it just makes it a little more interesting. After you have this part taken care of, then you're going to, again, check your measurement for your lid, make sure your calipers are correct. And then this is the easiest way to make a flat lid. You're going to take your calipers and you're going to look visually over the top so that the knob is in the center of the caliper prongs. What I'm going to be doing in just a moment is I'm going to press down the right prong to touch the clay. The left prong should not touch. If you let the left prong touch, the clay will collapse on the top and it will distort your lid. So you want to hold this in position, and I'm going to come in and let just my right prong touch. And you'll see that it makes a mark on the clay. You can see that. Now when it's spinning, it's going to look like visually to you looking overhead that this is too small because this is elevated. But if you stop your wheel and check it, you will see that, that the measurement is accurate. Okay? After you do that, the next step is going to be to clean this up a touch. And now we're going to take our needle tool and do the finishing steps. So we're going to take our needle tool, again with braced hands. You're going to use it like a pencil. So I'm going to go right to the edge of that mark that I made. Notice that I'm letting my pinky ride on the wheel head for stability. And I'm going to push my needle tool down until I hear it touch, and then gently, carefully lift it. Then I'm going to turn my needle tool to the side and do an undercut. Then I'm going to stop my wheel, do a slice, and peel that off. Now, can anybody think of a problem of trying to remove this right now? What would be a problem? You would rip it, it wouldn't slide because there's a lot of clay that's on the wheel head. So the next step would be to clean that up a little bit. So going very slow, we're just going to clean it up some. Clean it, make it pretty. And sometimes when you're doing all of this, there can be distortion. So the last thing you should do before we remove this is double check your measurement. Check again here, take your calipers and check here. If it has gotten too small, then pull out the rim a little bit. Okay, if it's too big, then you cut away a little bit more. The last step, of course, is clean your wheel, and then we will flood the wheel and remove it just like we've removed every other form this year with the bat. So you flood the wheel, wire it, and slide it off. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Perfect.